not our finest performance, that's for sure. But we got off to a rough start offensively, and then at some point we were letting the proverbial tail wag the dog in that our defense was being affected by our offense rather than the other way around. And so it affected us. And then we were, at one point in the second half, I think there was a media timeout, and they had scored on 100% of their shots, which I don't know if I've ever seen that before. So there were a lot of things going on, but the biggest one I think was just defensive, competing and from a physical standpoint on the defensive end, including rebounding the basketball, which is how most good defensive possessions end. In a rebound, and we didn't do that. At one point, they had missed 16 times and had rebounded 10 of their own 16 misses. So again, that's not a good percentage. So while we had offensive struggles, there's no doubt about that, and I'll take some responsibility on that. We were asking guys maybe to do some things. We came out right away and turned it over, and thought we had a pretty good situation and turned it over. Poor execution on that one, and then a couple other times we just looked like we were unsure of what we wanted to try to get to, and which was trying to attack. But anyway, that defensive performance in the games that we've lost big like that, we're averaging 85 points per game that we're giving up, and a lot of that's just because we don't respond when we've had some offensive struggles.
Lamont, the discrepancy in rebounding, is that something that you hammered them with afterwards, or just, was it just their physicality? So what led to that big of a gap in rebounding?
Yeah, they're quick to the ball, they're aggressive, they're strong, they're really aggressive, they're super aggressive, and that's been, to some degree, that's been part of our kryptonite. If I look at the teams that we've had lopsided losses to, there's a lot of physicality and aggression involved in what those teams do on the defensive end, versus some other teams that have allowed us to move the ball a little more freely, cut a little more freely, make catches a little more freely. So, I think a lot of it had to do with just an aggressive physical team. They are quick to the ball also. They're quick to the ball. But they're an extremely aggressive team, and we didn't match that level of aggression.
Michael in the front.
Lamont, Buzz was just in here talking about how you guys not having Hayden tonight was key and kind of changes the character of the team. And I know talking about physicality, Hayden seems to set the tone in a lot of ways with that kind of thing. I mean, just how much of an impact does it make not having him out there? And plus, is there any light you could shed on just his status as well, injury-wise?
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 41 a game, so we would have tied it up had he played, I feel like. But to your point, I think you're exactly right. Again, it's not about that. It's about who we were as a team in his absence in a game like this, right? Would there have been more fight? Would rather than 10 out of those 16 offensive rebounds, would that number have been 6 out of 16 because he would have blocked out a little more aggressively and drawn a couple fouls more? Would we have been in a bonus a little bit earlier? So would we have felt better about ourselves because of it? He's also a good cutter. We were with what they were doing offensively, we wanted to get some cuts from the backside and create some situations. So there's no doubt that it affected us, him not being there. In a negative way in a game like this specifically, but it wasn't, it wouldn't have counted for all those points, but we would have potentially been in a completely different place had he played. He's got a thigh bruise on his left thigh. He took a knee to the thigh during practice, and so I'm hopeful that he'll be back sooner rather than later. I don't know what it looks like. He's made tremendous progress from the day that first happened until today. He went through the shoot around and wasn't able to play, obviously, but had made some significant strides in terms of his progress. So those are tricky. Sometimes they take a little while, to be honest with you. I've had one in high school, and sometimes they take a little while. So hopefully he's working really hard at it, and hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later.
You kind of mentioned after Tennessee, the team not responding well to falling down early. Didn't tonight, but I guess did against Kentucky at points when the Wildcats made a run there. Where do you kind of explain that, and how do you kind of figure that out from a coaching standpoint to have some consistency there?
It's hard, but the difference was we led wire to wire in the Kentucky game, right? At one point we were up 13 or 15, bless you, whatever it ended up being, and so that's a little bit different. That it's a completely different scenario, in fact, right? Which is not an easy scenario to play in either. Say you're up 20, which we weren't, but say you're up 20 and that gets cut down to 4. And the crowd gets into it, and you get in the later halves of minutes of the game. That's hard. That's difficult. But you've been succeeding at something during the game. In fact, you still have the lead, but you've been succeeding on that day. So this is a day where, as you look, it's few and far between these successes. So what do you believe you can do it? Do you believe I can do I believe this is our day? Do I have real, true belief that this is our day? We're going to come back from this? Or do we just, fling it around a couple times and see how it goes versus being up? And then I think that is an easier situation to have some resilience in when you've played well for most of the game, and then, the tides turn a little bit. That says a lot about character too, but this was just, never got it going. Try to hit a 20-point shot, and then never get back.
Zachary Davis started today. He played second highest minutes total of the year. How do you kind of seen his development grow? I know halfway through his freshman year, and what did you like about his game today?
Yeah, it was good. I thought it was the way for us to go. We had a couple options. We could have started Daniel at the 4 and kept Gigi at the 3. We could have started Jacoby. I just thought with his length, I thought it was a good way to go. He can pass. He'll attack and can make some plays. But I'm happy with his progress. He's a typical young guy. I thought some of these minutes were valuable for him, even though the score was lopsided. He did some things. He rebounded, went coast to coast, finished with his left hand. I mean, you never know where it's going to happen for a guy, and he's going to the light will really come on. And so I thought they were valuable minutes, even though obviously we didn't play the way we wanted to. But I've been happy with his progress overall for a young guy. It's hard for young guys, as you know. But on the offensive end especially. Defensively, he's got some work to do still. He was in and fell asleep on one side, and his man ran off of those staggers that I talked about on the other side, and he hit the 3 in the corner. And so, you're constantly on. The time you'll be able to relax, you'll be sitting next to me on the sidelines.
Rick in the back.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned earlier
Hey, Rick.
about if certain things would have happened today, the guys would have been feeling a little bit better about themselves. You go from the, ultimate high, beating Kentucky, and then today happens. What do you do during practice before you play your next game to get the guys feeling good about themselves before they go out there?
Yeah, just getting back to what we do, our normal routine, focusing on one game at a time. I think that was a big part of us bouncing back from the Tennessee game, was that you heard the guys say in their presser that game didn't define us, and so they played in a way they were able to do that. So it is you play 18 games, and there's some wacky stuff that has happened, and when you have a veteran team that knows the ins and outs of winning consistently and why they can sort of diagnose themselves. It's a little bit different. I think it was with these guys, we have to this game's over. I can't change it, neither can they, and we got to get on to the next thing, which is practice tomorrow and get back to what we do and start putting our plan together for the next one and play better. We got to play better. Guys feel better when they play better, that's for sure. But in the meantime, we'll do it at practice. Again, I wasn't angry with the guys. I didn't go in there and curse them out, and it was what it was. We didn't fight. I pointed out the fact that coincidentally, the teams that we've lost to by 20-plus points have been teams that are tough. They're tough, gritty, tough guys. And so at some point, we're going to have to stand up to that and make some changes that allow us to play in those games too. but I think we just have to just get back to normal tomorrow and move forward.
John?
You mentioned gritty, tough guys. Who would you define as your gritty, tough guys on this roster?
I mean, our grittiest probably would be Hayden to me. He's probably our grittiest, toughest guy. He stands out as probably the guy that would be most likely to get involved in a charge block situation. I don't have this statistic, but my guess is that he leads us in charge block situations, getting involved in them and probably also taking them. So I think he stands out as an older guy. He's been around the block, but that's how he's built. He went to the Citadel. I used to joke when I was at Chattanooga, I used to say he went to the Citadel on purpose. Like he signed up for that. He wanted to go there and wake up and do push-ups at 5 in the morning. That's who this guy is. And then I got to know him, and I said, he definitely went to the Citadel on purpose. So I think he's the guy on our team that stands out the most clearly as the guy that's most likely to compete when it starts to get tough sledding like that. We're learning how to do that. We're learning what it looks like. And no, as a group, as a unit, we don't perform as well in those situations. As a unit, we don't.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks.